Walking down the stairs into the darkness, the sounds of passing engines clatter the subway walls. The dim lights expose what wants to be seen and not all that is there. The colours and shapes of art illustrate the many expressions of those living an inner city life. This location emits both vibrancy and emptiness in a city that provides plentiful opportunities to both win as well as fail. A setting like no other in the city of Bristol, known as the Bearpit. This documentary should explore this urban space by tracing its history, its subcultural expressions, the community and business projects which reside here, and how it has changed over time. St James Barton Roundabout, or commonly known as the Bearpit, is located in the heart of Bristol city centre. This area acts as a sort of purgatory for commuters between the culturally vibrant areas of Stokescroft and the capitalistic shopping districts of Broadmead. There are 4 entrances to choose from, transporting you to different areas of the city centre. Located beneath road height, as well as being the centrepiece of a roundabout, this area has historically been celebrated by some and feared by others. The space was originally used to host some of Europe's most popular markets in the 17th century. The remains of these glorious events are left residing in local Bristol street names such as Haymarket and Horse Fair. In recent decades, the space developed a reputation of being unwelcoming and dangerous due to it being an epicentre for homelessness, substance misuse, as well as antisocial behaviour. Over the past several years, organisations such as the People's Republic of Stokescroft, the Bearpit Improvement Group and the Bearpit CIC have tried to ignite business, creativity and positive perceptions on the area in a number of ways. To get an insight into these changes, I spoke to someone who is surrounded by the area on a daily basis.
My name is Simon Green. I am one of the directors here at Bearpit Bristol CIC. I'm also manager of Bearritos, the double-decker bus that serves Mexican food. I think it's that diversity really that makes the Bearpit different. I think you do genuinely get all walks of life here. We're very close to some high-powered solicitors and NHS offices, and you get everything and everybody in between. And what makes it distinct and different is that when it's buzzing and there's a really good feeling here, I think it's the best place in the city, and that comes from having a mix of people. It comes from there not being one group who dominates and people feeling safe and secure in the space. I think the community responded in different ways when we first set up. I think first of all there was a kind of disbelief that anybody would want to trade here because of the reputation the place had. It's important also to note that the first traders have been here set up around 6 years ago. It was a very different space. The bus came about 3.5 years ago now. It arrived. That was not met with the most positive response. The windows were put through on the top deck within 2 weeks of it being here. Not a positive community response. Most people were fascinated. They were interested to see something was happening. They were very interested to see Bristol VR, which is what our double-decker bus is, back in its hometown. And even to this day, we see people come through and turn and see the bus, and they just grin and take photos and selfies, and it's magnificent. It's great. It's a great feeling. We had an event here called the Bearpit Banquet, where we invited an organisation called 91 Ways down, and they cooked food for anybody and everybody. And there was a simple staggered payment system. We had a sound system on, big benches. We fed 200 people in 2 sittings, and the atmosphere was fantastic. You know, there were still people skating in the background, still commuters passing through, but people had stopped to eat and share a bit of time with each other and talk. And that's just such a great example of how, when this place is right, it's really right. The geographical positioning I always describe it as between Banksy and Broadmead. That point has everybody and everything in it, and in the middle sits this roundabout that could be completely amazing, and sometimes is, but often is less than fantastic. And that's the thing that keeps us going, has kept us going, is those brilliant times when we know that the space has been functioning perfectly. It's been great.
From chatting with Simon, it is clear about the ways in which these enterprises have both brought people together and made the space a more welcoming hub for community activity. However, it is also clear that there is a distinctive tension between those residing here who envision the space to be taken in different cultural directions, much like the road splitting off from the surrounding roundabout. I suppose it might be due to the heterogeneous persons passing through here, such as the homeless, shop vendors, commuters, skateboarders and artists. These different people can therefore be seen to fall into two categories, one group which subculturally expresses in opposition to mainstream culture, and the other being those who want the area to be a continuation of the shopping districts. From one perspective, the area can be regarded as a heterotopia through the continuous flows of supposed transgressive activities and persons passing through it, leading the space to symbolically mirror the conformity of its surroundings. The vibrant and fascinating cultural products on show here are undeniable, from street art, graffiti, poster designs, skateboarding and political activism. But when looking beyond the graffiti as the often portrayed deviant act, the walls of the Bearpit come to life as a blank canvas for a whole host of artistic expressions. What's also fascinating about the art is that it's in a constant mode of change, often radiating both local as well as global political issues, as stated in the stencil from the area saying, "Exhibition in progress." When looking deeper into some of the pieces, it becomes clear as to how the Bearpit brings communities together. No example of this is clearer than recently displayed depictions of local homeless legend known as Punk Paul, who sadly passed away last year from the highly addictive substance known as spice. Punk Paul is recognised as a regular face in the Bearpit and has been praised by local persons for being there for them in times of need. But Punk Paul's storyboard printed on the walls not only symbolises his own troubled life narrative, but reflects the wider societal issues of homelessness and substance misuse which are prevalent in the country. Bristol has had a 14% increase in homeless rates from 2016 to 2017, with many more undeclared. The homeless charity Shelter recently reported that 1 in every 170 people in Bristol are now classed as homeless. With the Bearpit being so close to a number of homeless shelters, the space represents solace for many of the socially excluded communities to come together. In this manner, despite the apparent positivity from when the vendors of the Bearpit arrived, the number of recent news reports have suggested that the space has taken a turn for the worse. I spoke to Simon to find out some more.
At the end of the summer, towards the winter 2017, things started getting really bad. There was an increase in antisocial behaviour, large increase in large groups drinking and taking drugs, then either fighting with themselves, and unfortunately, it has to be mentioned, spice on the streets of a dubious quality, and there became a kind of sick game where people were spiking each other's roll-ups or joints with spice, so people didn't know what they were taking, and we were dealing with spice overdoses and ambulance crews sometimes 2 or 3 times a day during the late summer, and that just creates a real no-go zone. The general public are looking, we don't want to go there. And the more recent shift has been, a lot of that animosity has been personal towards myself and other people here, because we will challenge antisocial behaviour, we will challenge some of the outrageous behaviour we've seen here to members of the general public, etc. And one of those things was challenging a person down here who was harassing women. We would do that every time, because we can't afford to let the general public think that behaviour will go unchallenged. And we also encourage the general public to report things, and we have done. Amongst the directors here, we've all been assaulted, we've all appeared in court, but we'll do it because we know the end product is things will get better. What really had changed though was that we were aware that our staff were no longer safe. We were leaving the premises and thinking there's a night shift on till 8:30 tonight, and just waiting by the phone hoping nobody rung. We weren't sure whether any of the antisocial behaviour was going to escalate to violence or worse. Got a lot of dealers around, we've got valuable equipment there, we were getting a lot of attention and people scoping the place out, and there was just a general negative feeling down here that was creating a really tense standoff, and we can't be seen to be complicit in that and allow our staff to remain at risk. So we did take the very difficult decision to kind of suggest that we were going to close down. Now we are actually going to close down on the 28th of February because of the fact that the environment, that includes behaviour within that, but the physical environment hasn't changed enough in the time that we've been here. We as businesses are now going to leave for a while. It might be for good. If that helps to contribute to it making a safe and welcoming place, I'm not sure how, but if it does, then that's fine. We just want people to use the space, to walk through the space and feel safe, and spread the word that this is a safe and interesting place to come. There's so many changes happening in Stokes Croft at the moment with the Carriage Works, Westmoreland House. There are other properties nearer to the Bearpit that are going to become housing that's going to change the makeup of the area. The Broadmead is going to have huge regeneration. You can't have something that's sat in the middle that's stuck in this sort of, I don't know, idealistic, slightly 1980s sort of anarcho-political, it's an area expression of freedom, because that freedom has brought over 300 crimes reported last year, let alone the ones that haven't been reported. That's brought an area that for many people is a no-go zone. It absolutely breaks my heart when I see kids come down here from schools, the next generation in their blazers on the way to Cotton or wherever, and they look down the tunnel and they won't walk down there because they're scared.
It's sad to hear how things have panned out for organisations such as the Bearpit CIC and the Bearpit Improvement Group. I think it's clear that the space needs more than just business to make it a welcoming area, but intervention from wider structural powers such as the council and the government. I guess it could take the businesses leaving to symbolise some of the work which needs to be done here as a means of bringing harmony between all its inhabitants. I just hope that if the police and more authoritarian groups are involved, the space is not rid of the subcultural expressions which make it so unique and important for the voices of the other persons in the city. I caught up with Miriam Delogu, who's the owner of the Bearpit Social Cafe, as well as Simon, to find out their visions for the future of the space.
So one thing that we really wanted to do last year was kind of be catalysts to bring people together. And I think a lot of people will always dwell on the bad in the space. But for us, because we've seen the best of it, that's kind of what we always try to strive towards. And so one of the things we believe can solve the problems we have is collaboration. And that goes at all levels with councils, charities, organisations and other businesses. Because I think there's something quite magical when you have people working together trying to achieve the same goal, same vision. And so one thing we started doing when things got really dark last year was we've seen the worst and we know what the worst of the worst can look like. What would the best Bearpit look like? And through this process, what we notice is the beauty of the Bearpit is that it didn't feel like a commercial space, and it wasn't just a park, it wasn't just a garden, it had many things going on. And so one of the things we've always envisioned it to be is the gateway to the city. It has the opportunity to kind of set an example on what happens when people work together. And one of the things we realise actually it's massively underutilised. So on an average, there's one business with 7 people that are here often. And so there's no chance that one business and 7 people can deal with the geographical problems, the physical problems, the crime problems, the political problems. And so it's like, well, what if there were more of us? And what if we had a bigger vision? We want to create Bristol's Green Gateway. harnessing technology and food sustainability at the core of it.
There are some incredible ideas around at the moment about, a green technology hub, working with UWE and University of Bristol and people like Grow Bristol and Incredible Edibles, and having like a loop, a closed food system here, and an exemplar to the rest of the country. You can do this in the middle of a city centre. You can grow products, you can use those products to create food, you can sell that food, you can recycle your waste, and nothing ever has to leave this crazy circle. Those ideas are around, but unless the council back us, and unless PRSC back off, then they're never going to happen. The future of the Bearpit is pretty grim. It's going to be a bigger version of the tunnels. It's going to be one big tunnel. And we've always maintained that the issues here are crime. If you want to solve the issues of the problems of the Bearpit, you solve the crime. And if that involves a big police operation to remove dealers and to offer people the support that they need, and that's going on behind the scenes, then it kind of needs to get a move on. In the same way, the council need to move quickly, and PRSC ultimately need to move out, because this is a really dysfunctional space, and that potential I talked about at the beginning is being completely wasted.
Overall, it is clear to see how the Bearpit is in a constant state of cultural and economic change, which has let it go through phases of being perceived in certain times as either welcoming or threatening to the public. For the future, it'd be interesting to hear from the other communities passing through it to understand their possibly different perceptions of the space and what they believe it should be used for. From my own point of view, there is still much to be celebrated about the Bearpit as a space which doesn't fully conform to the homogenised and gentrified areas which surround it. I think studying the Bearpit has highlighted the contestations and contradictions which can arise in public spaces. I think the Bearpit's uniqueness lies in its ability to make you feel highly intrigued and engulfed in its art, as well as simultaneously feeling an undercurrent of pressure. I just hope its cultural vibrancy doesn't evaporate like many of the other areas of Bristol. I hope people can be brought together to honour this area as somewhere which importantly demonstrates both the light and dark parts of the city.